Speaking of music, I've got a great guest standing by right now on the Jersey Central Newsmaker Hotline. He's an amazing, young, talented jazz musician, and he's doing a very special concert tomorrow night in Morristown as part of the Bickford Summer Jazz Fest, and it is the final installment of the Summer Jazz Fest. Gives me great pleasure to welcome the very talented Danny Bacher to WCTC this morning. Danny, it's Bert Barron. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Bert. I'm doing fine. Yourself?
I'm well. Good to talk to you, and great show coming up tomorrow. And let's get to know Danny Bacher and about your musical stylings and some of the things we can expect from you tomorrow night.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm still grappling with the early time. Jazz is such a late night kind of thing, and but it's such an honor to be a part of this interview. It's funny. Earlier in the week, I had played the Blue Note, and I did the jazz brunch there. And we had like a 9:30 a.m. Sound check, and now I got a 7:30 call. So I think hopefully by the end of the week, I'll be like 5 a.m. I'll be just kind of going from one gig to another, and sort of do like a marathon performance.
Yeah, this is kind of like normally the end of your gig is the morning hours for most people. You're just winding up your workday, and that's always been one of the cool things about just traditional American jazz and just this great vibe. And is most of the jazz that's out there nowadays, Danny, is it still very improvised and very improvisational that's out there now?
Yeah. That's sort of what makes jazz, like the idea of sort of spontaneous composition, it's what makes it exciting for a lot of people. And you'll take a tune, like a standard song, let's say, for example, and everybody, knows the tune. And then, you play the head, which means, in musicians' terms, it's like you play the song that people would recognize. And then all of a sudden you start opening up the form and people, will take a solo on it. You do a whole chorus or two choruses and you're just making it up. Doing your own composition based on the chord changes, and the progression of the tune. I don't mean to sound like too technical, but that's basically what makes jazz. And it's something that makes it exciting for me as an artist to perform it. Why I love it so much is that no two performances are ever alike, and you just kind of play sort of what you're feeling. And the mood that the song brings up. And speaking of feelings, this particular concert, we're going to be doing a lot of cuts coming that are going to be coming up on my new album called Still Happy. So we sort of explore the upbeat and positive side of music that is jazz in this upcoming concert. I've got some wonderful arrangements by a very, very terrific arranger and pianist named Alan Farnham, who's my music director on the project, and going to be joining also a guy named Mark McLean on drums, wonderful drummer, and we've got Dean Johnson on bass. Dean, played with everybody from Jerry Mulligan to Jackie and Roy, and a lot of great folks in his sort of past and present and future. He's a terrific bassist. And we have horn players, Charlie Karanikis on trumpet and flugelhorn, and then Chris Byers on tenor sax. And I'll be singing, of course, and playing soprano saxophone. So that's kind of the lineup. But it's really fun music. We're doing songs like Get Happy and Shaking the Blues Away and, This Happy Madness, great Joe Beam tune. And, we're going to throw in some traditional jazz as well for those folks that are fans of that. But, people that have seen my show that went last year, I did a lot of stuff for my first recording called Swing That Music, which was the music of Louis Armstrong, Louis Jordan, and Louis Prima. So no matter what I do in performance, I always like to sort of bring the party to what we're doing on stage, and make it fun time for not just the guys on the stage, but also for the folks listening.
Sure. This is going to be a great night of music happening tomorrow night. It's a 7:30 show at the Bickford Theater at the Morris Museum in Morristown. And you can save a couple dollars on tickets, too, if you buy them in advance at morrismuseum.org. Or you can, of course, get tickets at the door. Great night of some great jazz music with Danny Bacher and friends, again, happening tomorrow. Getting back to the improvisation side of this, Danny, the chemistry between the players has to be amazing. I mean, you couldn't put great musicians as you are with your other players, you couldn't just sort of put them on a stage and expect them to just kind of all of a sudden have this wonderful improvisation. There's got to be a level of understanding, and I'm guessing some chemistry between the players to be able to pull off jazz as well as you guys are going to play it tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bert, what's interesting about jazz is that, being that music is such a universal language, and jazz, certainly part of that vocabulary, if you will. If you're a jazz musician, you technically could get together with a group of guys you've never met before, never played with before, maybe not even speak the same actual language as them, but then you put a lead sheet in front of them, and everyone knows what they're doing, and you can actually play a tune and sound like you're a well-rehearsed band. With that being said, it's always ideal to work with people that you have a good rapport with, and like you said, a good chemistry, because it makes for just even more interesting conversation, if you will, on stage with your instruments. Because jazz, in a sense, is a conversation. So when you trade off with someone, it does help to have that camaraderie with your fellow band members. I always feel.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question. But as best I could, anyway.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Jersey ties for you, Danny. I know, graduate NJCU. Are you from Jersey originally? And what's the jazz scene like in Jersey nowadays? Pretty good, right?
Actually, it's decent. Yeah. Well, of course, we have the Jersey Jazz Society that I'm becoming more involved with. We're doing a big event in October where we're going to be honoring another Jersey jazz giant named Bucky Pizzarelli. And they had asked me to do some guest vocal work with a big band that they're putting together. And Don Braden, another Jersey jazz guy, saxophonist, is doing the music direction for it. So, we're excited for that. But obviously, Bickford does a beautiful series, and it's really exciting for me this year to be closing that out. Last year was my first time playing at the Bickford, and we had a really tremendous turnout, an almost sellout crowd, which was really exciting for the first time out. And I think we're going to do quite well tomorrow with the show. People have been there's been a lot of buzz in the Bickford scene, about me bringing the band back, and they've had some great people like Dan Levinson, who's big in both Jersey and New York, and Bria Skonberg as well, a friend of mine and a terrific performer. But anyway, yeah. So Jersey's thriving. The Jersey jazz scene is thriving, I think, as it always has. I grew up in Wayne, New Jersey, and when I was in high school, I studied a lot with the folks over at William Patterson. I'm sure you've heard of William Patterson University.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they've got, for many years, had one of the greatest jazz programs, not just in the country, but in the world. People from all over would come. So it was nice kind of having that scene in my own backyard, getting to play and work with people like Ray Brown, Clark Terry, Joe Williams, so many of the Doc Cheatham, so many of the people that have left us. But I had the privilege of getting to see, perform, and do workshops with, and learn from, and even play with. So I've been very lucky and very blessed to have had so many great people kind of smile upon me.
Very cool. And we gave away some tickets last week on the show here, Danny, and people are real excited to make the trip to Morristown tomorrow night and see your show. Again, it begins at 7:30. The Bickford Theater at the Morris Museum in Morristown. Now, get out early because you can bring a lawn chair and bring along some blankets. They actually now have food trucks outside of the Bickford Theater, and you could, get a little offering there from a food truck that begins at 5 o'clock, and then make your way inside the Bickford Theater and catch Danny Bacher and friends live on stage. That is a great Thursday night in Morristown right there, if I've ever heard of one.
The food truck thing was a big selling point for the musicians, too.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. But tickets and info at morrismuseum.org, and do not miss Danny Bacher and friends on stage tomorrow at the Bickford Theater in Morristown. Danny, can people connect with you? Social media, Facebook, Twitter, you do all that stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I always encourage people to check out my website, too, DannyBacherMusic.com. And people should know that it's a tough one, but Bacher is actually spelled with a CH. So it's like the composer Bach with an ER at the end. So DannyBacherMusic.com is my website. You can join my list. I'll get updates on what I'm doing each month, playing all over. Let's see, I've also, of course, same name, Danny Bacher Music on Facebook, so they can become fans of the page. And I'm on Twitter at Dan Bacher Music. I couldn't fit Danny in the handle. It was too long. So, but I'm all over the place. If you just look up my name, you'll see all kinds of options on Google. And, so, I'm out there and certainly encourage people to come out. I think you'll have a great time at the concert. Looking forward to seeing you all there. And it's been a real honor to be on the show, Bert.
My pleasure.
I appreciate you having me.
My pleasure. Good to talk to Danny Bacher this morning. And again, Morris Museum at the Bickford Theater tomorrow night, 7:30 show. Come out early, enjoy some food truck cuisine, and catch a great night at live jazz in Morristown. Danny, thank you for the time this morning. Enjoy the show tomorrow, and we'll talk again soon, all right?
Absolutely. And keep the music alive, folks. That's what I say. It helps when you come out and support. We appreciate it.